President Trump has torn up international agreements on refugees. He's threatened to dump international agreements on climate change. He's praised the use of torture. He's incited hatred against Muslims. He's directly attacked women's rights. Just what more does President Trump have to do before the Prime Minister will listen to the 1.8 million people who've already called for his state visit invitation to be withdrawn?
The Right Honourable Gentleman's foreign policy is to object to and insult the democratically elected head of state of our most important ally. Let's just see what he would have achieved in the last week. Would he have been able to protect British citizens from the impact of the executive order? No. Would he have been able to lay the foundations of a trade deal? No. Would he have got a 100% commitment to NATO? No. That's what Labour has to offer this country. Less protection for British citizens, less prosperous, less safe. He can lead a protest. I'm leading a country.
Now, fairly recently, one of my subscribers picked me up on some of my sort of anti-leftist rhetoric in one of my videos, and he was saying, well, Sam, you know, it's perfectly feasible to be a countryman who likes shooting and fishing and hunting and that sort of thing, and simultaneously to support Jeremy Corbyn. Now, the truth of the matter is no, you can't. You can't do those two things simultaneously, and I'll tell you why. Jeremy Corbyn has close connections with the League Against Cruel Sports. In his party's manifesto, he wants to end the badger cull. He also is obviously not going to overturn the fox hunting ban. He's also a vegetarian, okay? He's also a guy who's never really spent any time in the countryside. He's a completely London-centric MP. He's not even spent any time really in a real job, but that's another story we'll come on to in a moment. But up until last year, his shadow secretary for rural affairs, the DEFRA secretary essentially, was a lady called Kerry McCarthy. Now Kerry McCarthy was a vegan who was anti-shooting and anti-hunting, and it caused a huge furore, and everyone kicked off. And admittedly, now we've got a replacement which apparently isn't quite so severe. But the idea that this guy is going to be friendly to you, or even have an understanding of the countryside, is ridiculous, you know. And it's the same can be said for any Labour government, frankly. But especially this Marxist Corbyn government that we've got in waiting, that wants to become, rule the country. But really, to be honest, this is the least of our worries here. You know, there are bigger sort of things to worry about here. If you look at his party manifesto, he's decided to go on some sort of spending spree. He's committing himself to costs of around 50 to 100 billion pounds a year. And, you know, he's made much sort of furore about saying, you know, this is all costed. And I suppose largely it is all costed. But he seems to be forgetting there's something quite fundamental we're about to embark upon, which is what is essentially amounts to an economic version of World War III with Germany as we're leaving the European Union. I mean, is it really a good idea at a point when we are kind of trying to negotiate with Germany to make it as unappealing as possible for foreign investment to come into this country? You know, he's got proposals like saying he wants to end 0 hours contracts. And all that's going to achieve is it's going to make everyone on 0 hours contracts unemployed. Because there's a very simple reason why 0 hours contracts exist, why they're popular. They're popular because of basic free market economics. There's more people than there are jobs available. Okay, so employers are the ones dictating terms on those jobs that are available. If we had a situation where there were less people than there were jobs available, those people would be the ones dictating terms, and they'd be asking for nice pensions and holiday pay and all those sorts of things. But they're not. So we have 0 hours contracts. So if he really wanted to address that, I mean, yeah, he could ban it. He could ban them. But if he doesn't want all those people to be unemployed, and then therefore then a huge burden on the state, and to be personally actually worse off, then he would do something about immigration. But he won't do anything about immigration. He's openly said he doesn't plan to do anything about immigration. He doesn't think it's important, even though all the people who vote Labour are the ones who are, they're writing the cheques for that. They're the ones who actually have this problem. They're the ones who are on low wages. They're the ones who are suffering. They're the ones who are finding when they apply for a job at a supermarket that they've just built in their area, and they suddenly find there's 100 other applicants. That's why. And that's why the conditions on that job are crap. Because there's 100 applicants for that one job, or that one handful of jobs. So it doesn't really make any sense at all. And then you think the situation, as it's going on with Germany, at the moment, on paper, you would think we're going to get a great deal. We've got a trade deficit with the European Union. We spend more than £60 billion a year, more than we export. So we have that benefit. So a country like Germany, which is the country that's benefiting from those £60 billion a year, they've got a huge car industry built around that £60 billion a year. And of course, if they try and hurt us economically in terms of trade, they're going to hurt themselves, because obviously we will respond in kind and put similar sanctions on what they want to send here. But of course, because they're sending more here than we're sending there, they're going to fail. They're going to suffer. Trouble is, Angela Merkel seems to have taken it on herself to be this sort of dictator for the whole of the European Union. I mean, she's gone as far as banning Theresa May from even having a conversation with any other member state, because, apparently she speaks for the lot of them. And she has around about, 750,000 people in Germany who are dependent on their jobs in the car industry. And as I said, hurting Britain would make those people unemployed, effectively. If we basically said, oh, yeah, see you then, we're not going to have a deal, go away, we'll become a tax haven, that would render 750,000 Germans unemployed. But I don't doubt she's willing to sacrifice them on the altar of the EU, because she's desperate for the EU to go on. So either way, as you can see, we've got a lot of problems here. There's a lot of ducking and diving, a few little jabs here and there economically between us and Germany. It is literally going to be like a new world war. And it makes you wonder with these bloody Germans, what's the matter with them? They're always trying to take over Europe, all of the time, even when it's harmful to themselves. I mean, they're already propping up all these southern European countries, and also Eastern European countries like Poland. And for what? What? It's just like this desire for power for some reason. I mean, they tried it in World War One, and they got their arses handed to them. They tried it in World War Two, and that happened there. They got their arses handed to them again, and now they've decided, oh, okay, well, we'll just do it economically then. It's crazy, but that's what they want to do, and that's the situation we're in. And Jeremy Corbyn thinks it's a good idea to spend all of our money, to put us in debts between, as I said, between 50 and 100 billion pounds a year. Because I know he says it's costed, but of course that's assuming that the tax intake, or the people paying tax, remain, and so we just increase the amount they're paying. But of course we know that isn't what's going to happen. Business is going to leave the UK in droves, and we may even find that we actually end up taking less money for the exchequer than we would do if we left things as they are currently. But regardless, if it does come to the point where we're having to say to Germany, yeah, see you then, if you're not going to give us a good deal, screw you, we're going to become a tax haven, then that isn't a good time to be discouraging business from investing here, is it? But that seems to be what what he thinks. It's like you've given some 17-year-old child a free pass to sort of just do whatever they like, and they've just come up with these stupid harebrained schemes. I mean, you might like the idea of nationalising the Severn Trent, or creating new nationalised energy companies and all these sorts of things, like the post office, for instance, as well. I would say myself, the post office should have never have been privatised. It was profit making. What's the problem with public ownership of that? Sure, but it's there. It's done. That's it. Over. This isn't the time to start throwing money around, especially other people's money, which is what you expect off a load of Marxists, which is what we're seeing here. And this isn't even controversial. Jeremy Corbyn said himself on numerous occasions about how, he admires Marx. He's read Marx. He thinks Marx is great. John McConnell, who was supposed to be the shadow chancellor, has openly said he's a Marxist. Not on the TV, mind, but at a private function. And if I can find the clip, I'll put it here.
Party.
We've got to demand systemic change. I'm honest with people. I'm a Marxist. You know, this is a classic crisis of the economy, classic capitalist crisis. I've been waiting for this for a generation.
So, do you really want someone who admires somebody who's got a demonstrably failed economic worldview, which is that of Karl Marx, a system that killed 100 million people in the 20th century? Do you really want these people running the country? Because make no mistake here, if Jeremy Corbyn and John McConnell came out and said that they were National Socialists, would we all be thinking, oh, this is an okay guy, let's vote for him? No, we wouldn't, would we? We'd say this is abhorrent, we can't have someone who's a Nazi running this country. Well, I'm sorry, but communism was as bad, if not worse, than Nazism. Nazism killed, yeah, maybe up to 10 million people. Communism killed 100 million people. Why isn't anyone talking about this? Why isn't anyone bothered by the fact that we've got a load of self-proclaimed Marxists running for government in this country? And some people actually think that they should vote for them? Of course, luckily, nobody will vote for them. You can see clearly in the polls. You can see when you speak to people in the street, lifetime Labour supporters are either not voting, or they're voting for UKIP, or they're voting for the Conservative Party. Because they know where their bread's buttered. They know what are realistic proposals. They know that none of these things Jeremy Corbyn's saying he's going to do are ever going to happen. I mean, as I said, you only need to look at his cabinet. It's crazy. You know, Diane Abbott, Shadow Home Secretary, only there because she's a black woman, not there because she's actually the best person for the job.
No, we're talking about a process over 4 years.
I don't understand. What is he or she getting? 80 million divided by 10,000 equals 8,000. So, what are these police officers going to be paid?
Job. Unlike Theresa May, who didn't get any special treatment. She is the best person for the job, and she is going to get the job done. So if you care about not just shooting and hunting, but of course that can come into it for some of you as well, but if you just care about the future of this country, this huge economic crisis that we potentially are walking into, then there's only one vote. You're going to have to vote Conservative.